Good morning and welcome to day 4 of the AverVision SPED.cam online training. Today we will begin where we left off yesterday. Yesterday we reviewed the image toolbar. Today we will be reviewing the toolbar that allows you to add additions to your images. Before we begin, please make sure that you have connected your power cord into your DocCam and connected your USB cable from your DocCam into your laptop. At the current moment on the screen, you will notice that I am currently in the A+ interactive software. Please make sure you are here in order to follow with this video. We are going to go over several tools that will enhance the pictures and drawings that you are going to be projecting onto your SPED.cam. The first thing I would like to point out in this toolbar is our AverVision icon. This icon allows us to actually project whatever our SPED.cam is projecting. As you can see, right now I have a blank screen. You can utilize this software without being connected to your DocCam. However, you can also image whatever projection you have from your SPED.cam. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this and look at what happens. It is now projecting whatever images I have underneath my SPED.cam. Again, just as a refresher, I can close this out by hitting the X button, or I can enlarge it by hitting the maximize button. These are also located up at the very top toolbar. Today what we will be doing is we will be going over these icons down below. So what we'll do is we'll start left to right. The first icon is the freehand. And please feel free to play around with this as you're watching the video. Your freehand allows you to turn your mouse into a pen or a highlighter. For instance, if I need to circle something, I want to know how many markers are within here, and I want my students to see this. I can circle the number 10 using my freehand. I can also highlight it by choosing the yellow located on the side. And this will allow my students to focus on one specific area rather than the whole entire picture. You have 4 options when dealing with the freehand. It doesn't matter which one you use, just whichever one best fits the lesson that you are giving. The next writing tool that we have is our line. When we hit the line, you will see another toolbar come up on the left-hand side. You have the option of just creating a line. You also have the option of creating arrows, and you have 3 different arrows in which you can create: blue, red, and green. All of these arrows are tools in which you can use to make sure that you best utilize the picture and the resources that the DocCam allows you to have. So just as a recap, you have your freehand, which allows you to actually use your mouse as a marker or a highlighter, and you also have your line, which allows you to create straight lines or arrows to identify specific areas on your picture. As you begin to use this, you will notice that you will be writing and drawing lines and shapes, and you may not want them the whole entire time that you are projecting your image on your screen. So the next icon is your erase button. This erase button gives us several features that we'll need to understand. The first one, you will notice that my icon now turns into a circle. This circle can be enlarged by selecting one of these 3 options. The thicker the line, the more area that it will erase. It is important to keep in mind what each one does. So if I select one of the 3 icons, this allows me to erase any freehand writing. However, look what happens when I scroll over the lines. These lines are permanent until I select erase lines. So when I'm using these 3 options, it allows me to erase only freehand. You see a squiggly line, and if I hover over it, it says clear all freehands. If I select this, please watch what happens to the freehand writing that I have on my screen. It deletes all freehand writing, so you don't have to go one piece at a time. It will just completely clear off the free writing. But as you notice, the lines are still located on the page. Our next option is to clear all shapes and lines. If I select this, watch what happens to the lines that are on the screen. It has now deleted the lines that are on the screen, and it deletes all of them. So just keep that in mind when you are actually using the dot cam. The next two options are to clear the page and to clear the background. The background will clear the features that are in the back, not what is projected from your screen, but if you have several things that are overlapping, such as pictures, it will delete the background of that picture. This one, which is clear page, will send us straight back to a white page. So as I click this, notice what happens to my image. It completely disappears, and I will have to reproject this by selecting the Aver Vision icon. Those are your erase tools. Your next icon, which most of us are pretty familiar with this icon if we've used Microsoft Office, is your text box. Sometimes I will need to write text in here in order to label items, maybe if I don't want to write them freehand, or in order to focus on one specific area in which I want my students to learn. So you have four options: black, green, red, and blue underlined. We're going to go ahead and select red. You'll notice that my mouse changes into a text box picture. If I click and drag, this will allow me to make a text box. And I can now type in anything that I would need, and it allows this to be a part of the picture. Okay? This will show up on my picture, and I can continue as long as my mouse is the text icon to write all over the projected image. The next feature that we are going to look at, personally, I think is a pretty awesome tool. It is called the Move tool. It allows you to have your select button, so if times you notice that you're erasing and you cannot get your select or your arrow key back, this is where you'll find it. If you hit these crossing arrows, you will be able to hit select. The two features that I think are pretty unique to A+ Interactive software are the Spotlight and the Screen Visor. When I select Spotlight, this will gray out my whole entire picture except for one oval of my picture, and I can enlarge my oval if I want to, or I can make the oval smaller. What this allows me to do is it allows me to focus on one area. If I am looking at wanting to know if the students know if these markers are recyclable, I can go ahead and select the spotlight and focus on that one image in the picture, so that if I have students that have a hard time staying focused or capturing what I'm trying to teach, I can gray out everything else and focus on one spot. The next one is the visor. The screen visor allows me to, again, gray out the picture, and I can slide this visor over and show the picture slowly to the left or to the right. How is this useful to me in the classroom? I can put answers down for my kids to be able to correct their own papers, but I don't want them to see them until I make them available. So I would put up the screen visor in order to hide this. I can also move it back in order to hide it again. My next icon on this toolbar are shapes. Just as it says, it allows me to place shapes onto my canvas. So if I select the shapes, I have the options of a circle, a square, this can also be changed into a rectangle, a triangle, and a pentagon. If I select rectangle, you will notice that my mouse has now turned into a cross cursor, which I will now be able to draw rectangles or squares, whatever shape in which I may need to best utilize during my lessons. Because the main feature of the AverVision software, the AverVision.cam and the A Plus interactive software is to be able to capture images and record things that you are doing, again you will notice that there are two icons which we used in our previous toolbar, which was our image toolbar, which is our capture button and our record button. Just to refresh, our capture button allows us to capture one single picture or continuous pictures. Our record button allows us to actually record a setting and motions in which are projected from our dot cam in order for us to show a video to our students. In the middle of those two, you will see something called Special Tools. In order to use this Special Tools, I'm going to go ahead and clear out my screen and take off the picture that is being projected by the dot cam. So I'm going to hit Erase, and I'm going to hit Clear Page. This will take me back to a blank canvas. Special Tools. When I select Special Tools, I will get this dialog box, and I have several options. What I have noticed in these options is a lot of them are mathematical tools that we can use. As you notice, you have these cubes. These cubes are utilized, which I know many people, especially if you're in elementary school, have used these tools. And what I'd like us to do is I'd like us to go ahead and separate these tools by clicking on them. And all I did was just clicked on the picture and it went ahead and placed it on my image. Now what I can have my students do is I can have my students count by packing them on top of each other. I can also have my students sort them out depending on what the standard is that I'm trying to teach my students that day. My next tool in the special tools is geometry. If I select geometry, you will be able to see several different geometric shapes in which I can add onto my screen. If you notice that most of these are 3D shapes, so I can add a sphere, I can add a cylinder, and I can add several other ones in order to properly show my students examples of whatever mathematical issues we are dealing with. The next one is probability. These are dice that I can put again on my screen in order to give my students a better visual. They do not roll, but they're just images of dice. The next one, which I think is a really good tool, especially in math for the upper grades, is your rulers and your protractors. If I hit this protractor, it will put this protractor on here so that my students can find angles. I can rotate it by hitting the green button, and it allows my students to actually have that real interaction with angles or with measurement in order for them to best understand the lessons that are being taught. So that my screen doesn't become too crowded, I'm going to go ahead and once again clear my page and go back to my toolbar. I'm going to go into timers. Here you can see several different clocks and timers in which will help my students better identify clock reading skills or time reading skills. This will allow me to project screens of keyboards as well as calculators so that my students can see them. And the last one is grids. This will give me several different options of different grids that will benefit my students. If I am teaching my students about coordinates, I may select this grid and it will select it onto the screen, and now I will be able to dot different plot lines on here so that my students can label them for me and can identify the appropriate coordinates. As you can see by now, these are all tools that As you become more familiar with A+ interactive software, you will begin to add these into your daily lessons. Are you going to add all of these at once? Obviously, this is a lot to learn at one time, but try starting off with one tool that best fits your needs at this moment, and then as you continue to use the device, you will continue to add more and more tools. And before you know it, the A+ interactive software will just become second nature in your classroom. The next two are the GRS and the multiple inputs. These are options that you can use in order to do graphing and to have multiple students writing on your board at one time. Unfortunately, we do not at the current time have the proper interactive pens for me to be able to show you this. If you have them within your classroom, please feel free to contact me and I'd be happy to show you how to use these icons. The last icon that we will review before the end of the day is the OCR. OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition. What this allows us to do is it allows you to project, say for instance, a book, and we can go ahead and copy what's on that book by selecting it within this red text bar. What it allows you to do is if the computer is able to read it, you will hit play and it will play back the words in actual computer text in order for you to add this into another software that actually reads the text for you. In order for it to read the text for you, you must utilize a separate software. All that OCR does is it takes it from a book and it puts it into contextual computer text. Just to recap some of the features that we went over today, you have your freehand, your line, your erase options, your text, you have your visor screen and your spotlight, shapes that you can add, and special tools in which you can add mathematical tools to your screen. And you also have your OCR. This is the end of day 4 of the AverVision SPED.cam software. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at any time.